We're going to start with a pattern recognition question today. And the question is, who's the only person that you can think of that doesn't value success in the financial system through percentages? So as I think about it, we have bank loans. They charge you a percentage to borrow money. They also give you a percentage if you have money in savings. The other one would be credit cards. They charge you an interest just the same. And we measure and value investors by the amount of return, the percentage of return that they give us back every year. So who's probably that one person? More than likely, it's you. If you think about it, the entire financial system measures success based on percentages. So is this a rule that the blackjack dealer's playing by and you're not playing by? Before we get to the budgeting piece, let's do a recap. In the first episode, we talked about our relationship and how we feel about money. In the second episode, we talked about what our goals were. Now we've done all the legwork so that we can get into figuring out how to set up the budget. All right, before we build this budget, there's a few format things that I want you to establish. The first thing is I'd like you to put all of your goals and all of your expenses in 5 separate categories. The first one is necessities. And that's your house, your automobile, the insurance that you require. The next one is debt. So credit cards and loans of any type. Did you know that the average American has $6.3 thousand in credit card debt at 20 to 24% interest right now? The next one is wants. I think we all get this one rather well, no further explanation needed. The next one is savings. While the average American has $5,000 in savings account, 52% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 bill that sprung up out of the middle of nowhere. And the last one is giving. So anybody who does tithing or charity or community work. Okay, now that you have all those expenses put in those 5 categories, let's talk about percentages. Right about now, you should be seeing some percentages on the screen. These percentages equate to the max amount that you can spend out of your income based in each of the categories. As a side note later on, I'm sure you'll ask this question. House poor, for example, is like 40% of your monthly income. For the car Casanovas, it's like 20 to 25%. The Joes family is my personal favorite. They are missing a letter because they can't quite keep up with the Joneses, and they have a moonshine budget on a champagne lifestyle, baby. The last formatting request I have is don't use dollars and cents. So round everything up to the nearest 5. It's gonna make it a lot easier on your expenses. And the worst thing that can happen is you have a little bit extra money at the end of the month. Okay, so now that we've talked about the format, go ahead, break down your expenses, put them in the categories, and figure out the percentage of your income that you are using, and then compare it to the baseline, and then just stop there. I want you to keep in mind that this is not a heavy judgment zone right now. You are learning something new, and this is data and information for you to redirect and make better decisions to reach your goals. And that's the way it should be taken. All right, now that we have that down, we need to talk about budget strategies. So if you remember from episode 1, there was a quad chart. We're only gonna go over 3 of the quadrants, but I want you to keep this in mind. We're gonna start from the lowest level and move our way up, all right? So the first category that we're gonna talk about is the protector mindset. In this mindset, you're probably living paycheck to paycheck. And you may be paying all your bills, you may not be paying all your bills. You also have very little or no savings at all. You probably have a low credit score. You also buy your desires on credit when you get them, and you're really trying to find a job that gives you more income. Now, the best mentor for someone that finds themselves in this category is Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey does an envelope system, and the reality is he is actually going after the thing that you need the most. You need control and management of your habits and how you see and view money. And so that's your biggest hurdle. Once you get past that hurdle and the income problem is solved, then you can move on to the steward mindset. In the steward mindset, you've established that all of your bills get paid and that you have money in savings. You may even have a healthy amount of money in savings. You also have a little bit invested. You might even have a medium to a large amount invested in a retirement account. You probably have a decent credit score to a really good credit score. In this category, Suze Orman is probably the best person to help you get from the steward mindset to the strategic mindset. She will help introduce and help you realize how much interest and investments can change your portfolio and your circumstances. One of the biggest pitfalls that I've seen, you have access to a lot of things you want. And so you can say, I'm good in this category. And you can say, I just want to live life. I have my necessities met. And you can spend money on things that are like necessity pluses. That's where you get into the $70,000 cars and the $600,000 homes, or the things that you don't really need, but you can afford. The last strategy is the strategic strategy. And this is the one where clearly all your bills are paid. You have a healthy savings account. You may even have a slush fund. You have really good investments, and not only in the stock market, but you have homes, you have maybe precious metals, like you have a diversified portfolio. And the perfect mentor for this is Robert Kiyosaki. And he aligns perfectly with what everybody has in common in this category, and that's looking for ways to grow their money and their assets. Okay, with the strategies, you have to know a couple things. You may fall in more than one, depending on the sub-factor that you're talking about. Find the one that you align most with. Don't skip ahead. If you only have one tenant in another and the majority of where you sit is in the previous one, stay there. You have to master and get those skills before you can move to the next. All right. I mean, that's really the short of the long of it. So now that you have your numbers, you have your percentages, you know how you feel about money, you have what strategy you're going to use, and you have your specific numbers for your income and your budget. Now your job is to sit back and look at it and say, okay, where am I misaligned and how do I get aligned? Now, some of those decisions may not be super easy. If you're over on the housing, that's hard if you're in a lease or you've bought a house. You're going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul to make up for it in another arena. The goal is you're at the cap or underneath the cap. And really, you kind of measure yourself on how much below you can get underneath the cap. Your way forward will be balanced with the strategy that you're currently using and the thing that you need to overcome in that strategy to move on to the next. So why do I present this style of budget and all this extra stuff about feelings and goals and all that to you? I think it aligns with the most simplest version of investing, and everyone can do it. And let me give you some numbers to explain what I mean. If you took $200, which for some may be really challenging right now, but keep in mind it's over the average of the years, all right? If you took $200 and you invested it and you made 7%, which is well below what the stock market makes on average annually, and you invested it for 15 years, at the end of that 15 years, that $200 a month would cost you $34,000, but you would have $60,000 in that investment account. Now, what would happen if you did that for 25 years? You would have invested $60,000 and it would have been worth $151,000. Oh, 35 years, you ask? How about $84,000 invested and your account would be valued at $333,000? And okay, fine, I'll throw in 45 because someone might get it at 25 and want to retire at 70. You would have $108,000 of your own money, but in that account, you would have $690,000. That's the effects of compound interest. The sooner you get started, the more you can put in, the more you can buy back at an earlier age. With that said, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope that you got some value out of this. If you did, I would ask to support us. The way you can do that is you can go to the YouTube or the Facebook page, like, subscribe, comment. I'd really like to hear what's the most valuable piece of information that you got from the first 3 episodes. We do have one more episode. It is going to be talking about the nitty-gritty, living in the system that we explained in the first 3 and the challenges and maybe some ways that you can get around some of the barriers that you think you have. Once again, thanks for watching. Do me a favor. If you haven't reminded yourself today, make the day you deserve. necessities. We all know what that is. Houses, because you're balling, baby. Bang, bog, bog. If you remember in episode 1, there was a quad chart, and there were 4 different sections of it. No shit. Like, it's why it's called a quad chart.